The Chevy HHR in terms of design is a mid, along with the SS model housing a turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. What if instead I LS swap it with GM's LS4 V8 engine made in automation and try to replicate the SS model of the HHR, which will later be driven in BeamNG.drive with a modded Supercharger? Hey guys, it's TRIZE here, and let's get on with our build. So with the panel material of this near replica modded body of the HHR, so the panel material we made out of partial aluminum with a monocoque chassis made for the chassis material out of AHS steel. And to go in line like the inline 4 model, including the LS4 V8 engine, is we're going to be using a front transverse engine placement with the front suspension made out of a McPherson strut, and the rear suspension we'll be using is a torsion beam. So for the LS4 V8 engine here, as I already made this, so a brief overview of the specs if you want to make this one yourself. It's a V90 V8 engine made out of aluminum with the bore set to exactly 96mm and the stroke set to exactly 92mm, which gets the engine size to 5,327 cubic centimeters or 5.3 liters, with a push rod type of heads made also out of aluminum. For the crank cowl rods and pistons, I believe these are the ones actually used for the LS4, such as the cast iron type of crankshaft with the cowl rod set to a heavy duty forge and the piston set to a hyper-eutetic cast with a harmonic damper implemented. For the compression, it is set to the real life rating of exactly a 10.0 to 1 ratio with the cam profile set to a 46, the springs and lifters at a 53 with the RPM limit set to exactly 6,000 RPM. And currently in automation as of version 4.2.42, it's not supercharged up in here, even though in 4.3 there will be a supercharger real soon. So anyways, for the fuel system, we're using a multi-point electronic fuel injector with a single type of throttle setup with a standard mid type of intake manifold. Manifold size set just up to 2 clicks to 52, running on premium fuel to force a little bit more power because of the compression, all that stuff, and how automation behaves up in here with the fuel settings I got. The fuel mapping at a 53, just 3 clicks up for the default value of 50. And finally, for the exhaust and everything, so for the headers, we're using a cast mid type of header, so the header size set for the slider at a 47. And I do know what I've heard about this engine is that the header size is notoriously small for this type of engine, but I haven't really did so that much because doing so would significantly increase the power of this engine, which will not be in line with the actual horsepower rating I got with this engine, which you'll see in just a second. And to dual exhaust diameter to 63.5mm or 2.5 inches with a 3-way catalytic converter, no first buffer, but a reverse flow for the second one. And this gets a power rating to the exact power rating of 303 horsepower at 5,500 RPM, and a torque rating of a 314.7 pounds-feet of torque at 4,000 RPM. I believe that the actual torque rating for this engine is 323 pounds-feet of torque, I know it's in the 320s, but in automation, we got to around 315, so that's close enough as that I can get with this particular engine, because matching the torque for a particular engine can be a little bit tricky, but the horsepower, not so much. It could be quite easy to match the horsepower, but the torque on specific engines can be a bit of a challenge. Now let's give you a listen to what this LS4 V8 sounds like in automation right now. It sounds pretty quiet, all thanks to the muffler implemented with this engine. So for the drive type for this car, just like the Chevy Impala SS with the LS4, and the Chevy Cobalt with the 4-cylinder engine, a front-wheel drive type of the drivetrain with a manual 5-speed with the top speed set up in here. Let's take a look at this. What's the top speed graph? 185 miles an hour? Hell yeah, 180.2 miles an hour will do. For the tires, we're using the actual tire width of this car, so it's going to be a radial sports compound type of tires with the front tire with front and rear each set to 225mm front and back. And I believe I can space these out, right? The fender flares? No, I can't. Well, anyways, instead of 15-inch rims, let's upgrade this to some 18-inch rims to get the tire profile to P225s, 45s, rim size 18, which is the real-life HHR's tire size with the SS model. And of course, alloy rims, and for the brakes, what's kind of interesting for the brakes These are actually real according to a press release released by General Motors on behalf of Chevrolet. So the front brake size, we'll be using a Vinadisc single piston brake with the front brake size set to 300 millimeters. And the rear is a solid disc, also a single piston of its size set to, looks like 270 millimeters if I'm right. And I'm going to keep the front and rear brake force right now as is to 100% because I'm kind of concerned on how this will behave adding a single piston type of brakes, which is not really common for me building cars on this channel. And for the under tray of this bad boy, well, it's a performance model, so fully clad type of under tray with the brake airflow, maybe a 20 would work. And for the interior of this bad boy, well, unfortunately for this car build, I will not provide an interior because it's one, a pain in the ass to make, which took me a couple hours to do so, but speaking of that, I do have a poll that is active, as you see right now, of me planning on creating a new type of series on Automation where I use the light campaign version of this game. So if you want to vote for either of these 4 manufacturers or one of your own, the link to vote is in the description below or in the pinned comment, and the voting will close on July 24th, 2023, so the next, 4 days after this is uploaded. So anyways, out of the way, the interior, premium, and a infotainment system, premium infotainment system. No, it's a little bit too advanced. Premium sat-nav, there we go. For a 2011 car, premium sat-nav will do. And for the safety aids and all that good stuff for this car, this might be what it is according to General Motors with that press release document, is it'll be a variable hydraulic type of power steering with traction control and ABS brakes with standard issue 2010 safety standards. And wrapping things up with the suspension of this car build, only the car build. The springs, progressive springs, gas valve tube dampers, and semi-active sway bars start off with a sport preset. Where are we at right now? Pretty decent on the drivability graph with the over and under steering right down the middle, but understeers quite a bit at the sportiness factor. So how are the brakes look? Terrible. Beyond terrible. So up the brake force. Still not enough. This is what GM told me of what the brakes are. The rears are terrible too. 22%. Good. So what if I increase the pad type to maybe a 70, a more sportiness and racing factor up in here? So we are dropping down into sportiness brake factor, which is at 4.4 right now for the front brakes, but really non-existent for the rear, which is nice. Alright, a little bit, and where are we at? 3.6 for the front brake force, brake fade, and 0.1 for the utility brake fade, but nothing on the back. I think I'll call the brakes right here a final. Alright, so everything's pretty much aligned with the actual car build up in here, so right now, let's get ready to design this here bad boy in a time-lapse of me trying to loosely attempt to replicate the entire build of a Chevy HHR with the front, sides, the rear, and all that good stuff except for an interior, unfortunately. So anyways, let's commence the time-lapse of me designing this car right now. So for the design of this car, I had built this exact car off camera and it took over 3 hours for me to replicate everything. But this time-lapse build took me a little over an hour to design this car. It's just a way for me to prepare and get to know on how to design this car. Starting with the front, I added the front lip bottom grille with these side vents. The first vent fixture is the actual vent. Then I duplicated it to create the outline of the vent similar to its real-life counterpart. I then finished up the front end with the main grille with a large colored grille bar topped with the Chevy logo. Although this badge mod is actually called the Serpent, which is a Chevy bow tie logo painted blue with a dragon on top. For the sides, I added a rectangular looking indicator mounted on the sides of the front bumper. Same thing on the rear with the red reflectors, which you'll see, which I added them later. I also added this lip fixture which serves as a side skirt which improves aerodynamics, just like its real life counterpart. For the back, I first added a fairly large lip spoiler on the hatchback door. It would be a bit overkill adding a legit wing on the back, which I didn't do. I then added this rear bumper indentation using a grille fixture painted using the car's colors instead of adding a legit diffuser to the bumper. I topped that off with the dual exhaust pipes, the rear reflectors, the circular brake light assemblies, and the license plate molding and trim. I then made some minor changes to the car after wrapping up with the design, such as painting it to its orange color and making very slight adjustments to the suspension. So after getting everything done with this build, here's what it came out. This is the 2011 Chevrolet HHR SS Supercharged. This what-if model of the Supersport HHR houses a much more powerful engine than its turbocharged sibling. With 4 more cylinders and a supercharger, it's definitely one of the most wackiest cars if this were to exist in real life. Alright, so I finally got this Chevy HHR, the supercharged variant of the Supersport aka SS model of this car with just an exterior replica, the best I can of my abilities of this car. So before exporting this bad boy to BeamNG.drive, despite our only 5 problems we got going here, such as the front and rear dampers being quite hard, the brakes are suffering from brake fade, the clearance in front of the engine is quite narrow, and the engine has some unutilized fuel octane. Let's jump on over to BeamNG.drive to see how this supercharged guy drives. So here we are at the map of West Coast USA with the supercharged Chevy HHR up in here, as you can also see at this little boost gauge above my speedometer. Is that I've installed a supercharger to this vehicle by installing a mod in the BeamNG repository, which adds the ability to add superchargers to any vehicle in the parts menu. So what I did to pretty much like semi-replicate an E10 M62 supercharger found on a Chevy Cobalt supercharged variant is that I added a Roots type of supercharger to this vehicle, which makes a horsepower rating from what it was 299 brake horsepower for the naturally aspirated model to 530 brake horsepower with the supercharged variant, and the torque from the NA model 315 pounds-feet of torque to 575 pounds-feet of torque, so a significant difference between the two. So anyways, while we're still out here, let's get ready to do the basic performance test, starting with the 0 to 62 acceleration test, followed by the 62 to 0 brake test, and lastly a top speed run with the supercharged vehicle. So let's start off with the 0 to 62 acceleration test, starting now. Hold up, I thought it was in freaking realistic mode, so go. A little bit of a lag going from neutral to first gear, and the traction control doing its work up in here. 0 to 62 at 5.04 seconds of 256.05 feet. Not that bad of a wannabe muscle car with an LS4 engine. And the brake test, brake hard at the second lane up in here, 62 to 0 underway, and 62 to 0 in 2.77 seconds of 107.13 feet, and I have appeared to stall the vehicle. Yep, engine is off, hold V to turn it on. But brake time and distance-wise, despite having the realistic brakes from GM's press release of the specs of the vehicle, like the official specs, seems pretty fair. So for a top speed run already in effect, wow, slightly better 0 to 62 at 4.82 seconds at 234.28 feet. Now we're in 5th gear, speeding in the 2nd and 3rd lane past this guy on the right, that Bastion. Near miss to Piccolina and all good stuff, and since it's supercharged, and it made it powerful, I should have probably changed this to... Damn it, I thought I made it! Okay then. We're stuck on a telephone pole. I don't think we really reached its top speed. I want to double check this again. So, RIP to the Bastion. Yep, he's been smoked. All thanks to me, which I found myself guilty by wrapping myself on a pole. So anyways, let's do a time trial run to see how this vehicle actually performs on a track. So here we are at the modded map of the Road Atlanta, and we're going to be doing only one lap around the entire full circuit of this here road course. So let's get ready to start things off here in 3, 2, 1, for it, go. That was terrible thanks to electronic stability control, so change to sport mode and go from there. An almost perfect 5 seconds, 0 to 62, okay. So since it's front wheel drive, how... takes the corner? Not that bad, despite having sports tires and it being front wheel drive, kind of like the Chevy Impala SS, but instead of a supercharged... Fair enough, supercharged model of that car, that was naturally aspirated, the same LS4 engine like I mentioned earlier. So it performs, in terms of like general handling for a front wheel drive car and manual and powerful... Wait, this is naturally aspirated. Can I load a super... Hold up. No. This is naturally aspirated. Am I able to load... Hold on a minute. Can I load the supercharged model? Alright, do I have the supercharger? There we go. So what I did was I changed up to a free roam map and added a supercharger separately and went back to Road Atlanta and just spawned in normally in free roam and enabled the time trial mode the moment I spawned in at the start and finish line. So we should have the Supercharger as so because, well, you heard it, and it should perform around the circuit no problem. So again, 1 lap, 3, 2, 1, go. That's more like it. And also with the Rouge Supercharger, the E to the M60, we got a break here, the M62 in real life, I do know that it makes up to 12 PSI, but we got up to like 14 and a half, 14.3 right there, 14.4 PSI. That's a lot of boosties. I almost missed a checkpoint as I went too fast there. Well, we were doing not that bad with the naturally aspirated model, but with the supercharged model, as we're generating a lot of wheel spin and so much power, this pretty much says otherwise. So let's see, brake here, 120. Second gear. The third, that was way too early on the brakes. I might as well just stay on Gran Turismo, have the little driving line, and hold your hand. That understeer's terrible. Alright, top speed, 155-ish miles an hour. Brakes are fading, knees weak. This is why General Motors should have increased the piston count to reduce the... I want to say reduce... I know it's going the wrong turn there. I was say increasing stopping power, but limit a little bit on the fade. So here's start and finish line. We're going to get a time of a high 1 minute of a 1 minute 51 seconds, 700 whatever milliseconds. So now it says 151, 807 milliseconds. Well, not too bad of a run with a supercharged HHR engine and car itself. So, crash. We just died. Again. So continue here. We'll respawn the vehicle, kind of like, yep, as per usual, when you like, what I explained, you just spawned in normally, like you're at the time trial marker, and then just say like, hit the escape button, and just like load the time trial as so. So anyways, to wrap things up, let's drop this bad boy down a ramp in a steep-ass road at Car Jump Arena to see if this wannabe supercharged SS model should have existed in real life. So take you to the top of the ramp right now. So here we are at the top of the ramp up in here, and we got a 1 light, a 2 light, 3 light, 4 light, and a 5th light. So get ready to accelerate this here bad boy with no traction control right now. No traction control. Shot at camera work. So 0 to 62 at 4.57 seconds of 187.26 feet. Not too bad without any traction control and a downhill assisting us. 185 mile an hour is our launch speed, and this is going to be kind of brutal. Let's slow it down. Alright, 4 times. So about 460 something meters of a launch we got there. So full time, no wheels, backflip. But daddy, that was front flip. I meant front flip, but daddy, that was back flip. Now, extracting this car to some flat land, we got the hazards going off because impact detected stopping car. And how does the brake lights behave with just the brake lights only? So we'll go to neutral and hit the brakes. So those are the brake lights, and how about the turn signals? Because the brake lights and the turn signals are integrated to one another, kind of like damn near every American domestic car is in real life. So the brake lights are dim, but the turn indicators are hella bright. Just like in real life. Now for the final part of the video, first gear we go, wheel spin we go. Let's get ready to ramp ourselves down to the final bridge pillar to get one more high-speed crash test going with this vehicle. As I go to 5th gear, 150, 160, 170, pop that curb, and stop. I'm too early for the party. So here's what we got right now. Let's just slow-mo the hell out of this. Let's just do 100 times slow-mo to see where we're at. So what else am I missing? We got the front-end collision, and speed this up. There goes my side skirts, or the front aero piece or something like that. It's a full-time. Well, here's the car as so stupid me for not pausing a little bit early to see how the car deforms at this bridge post here. Or pillar, whatever. So a final look, severe front end damage, not so much on the sides, like it's a general, the sides. Same, kind of same thing with the rear end, some deformities, loose polygons. I say loose polygons, but just general deformities. And the right side, kind of like the left side, not so much damage, quote unquote. So the Chevy HHR SS with the supercharged LS4 engine. In terms of how it drives, it's excellent of how it accelerates off the line, but it generates a lot of wheel spin due to the immense amount of power and lack of wide tires. Also, since it's front-wheel drive like the Cobalt and Impala SS, it isn't the best in terms of handling and maneuverability. So this car, in general, it's just a wonky, run-of-the-mill LS swap car that shouldn't be LS swapped. So anyways, that'll do it with automation and BeamNG.drive. And for those who are interested in this type of content, please be sure to like and subscribe so you won't miss out on any videos like this in the future. So this is TRIZE Rising Up, and signing out.